evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to GEG Delhi NCR session. We are here once again, bringing you some fun and learning put together, great sessions for you so that you as an educator get to take away some great ideas back to your classroom. You get to share some more with your students, with your colleagues, and also somewhere or other, we in this process also get more empowered. So we are here, GG Delhi NCR, with the only motive of sharing, empowering, learning, and growing together. So I'm Sangeeta Gulati, GG Delhi NCR leader. You've seen us here many a times bringing you some interesting sessions from various educators just like you and me, whether they are from India or they are not. And today is just one of those days when we have a very special guest. So before we bring the special guest up, let's have a quick round of introduction from my other two mates here, teammates here, Sanchita and Vibha. Hi,
Hi
Sanchita.
everyone. Hi Sangeeta ma'am. Hi Vibha. Hi everyone
Hello,
who's
hello.
watching. And as you can see in our little name tickers that we have under our names, you've got our introduction there. I teach history in high school. Very passionate about the subject, and our shared love for technology and how we can make technology integration a regular affair rather than it being a special day at school. So yeah, and that's the passion that we want to share with all of you. And as Sangeeta ma'am said, that we are here to learn from each other, to share what we've learned, and to empower each other as well. Vibha, over to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I teach middle school math, and as Sanchita ma'am said, it's not just a one time thing. I remember the times when I was in school. That it used to be a one time thing. Once a month we were taken to a computer lab, and we were made to sit in the computer lab and do some tech related thing. So that is not the case anymore. That is not the times that we're living in anymore. And we are supposed to. We should integrate technology with each and every lesson, whatever subject you're teaching, whichever grade you're teaching. And exactly that is what we are going to discuss today. How can we integrate technology in our day to day lessons? Where I think a lot of countries all over the world are back offline, if I'm not wrong. I hope we are offline and we remain offline, and things get better very soon. And technology is not going anywhere, whether we're offline, whether we're online. So yeah, this is what our session is all about today.
But
That's true.
Vibha and Sangeeta ma'am, I don't know whether you'd agree with me. Over the last 2 years, I think that learning has been so amazing,
Oh,
but
no
also
doubt.
at the same time very overwhelming because
Absolutely.
yeah, if I look at the number of badges that I have grabbed, because yeah, badges are something nice I like to have in my signatures at the bottom. But often I come to a point when I'm thinking about a lesson and how am I going to deliver that and share that with my students, and sometimes I'm stumped because there are so many tools that I've learned, so many tools I'm excited about, but I don't want to, or I can't integrate all of them in that one little lesson. So how am I going to choose from among the amazing stuff that I have going on around me to really make the lesson meaningful for my students? I know I deal with this every day. What about you, Sangeeta ma'am and Vibha?
In fact, that is most of the teachers, I guess, would be going through and feeling, because in the excitement of going online, and then the enthusiasm that somehow came in, for which we were all very happy. We were very happy to see
Yeah.
that happening. We didn't have to sell the idea of using technology in their classroom. They were just, going and looking for it. But now that when we are going back to school offline, and devices are somehow left behind, how much are we going to keep up with? That's one question mark. And two, having too many tools, but stretching them far and apart, how good is it doing to our students and the learning
Absolutely.
that needs to come across? So, well, without any delay, because we definitely are putting out so many questions and so many concerns, but there is one person that we've been following, and this is again for all our audience, that as three or four educators or teachers that you see on this GG Delhi NCR platform, It's not only just last 2 years, it's been many years for us of experimenting with educational technology. And where have we learned from? So I want to say that, put it out, is from many educators, the kind that you meet here at our platform and the kind that we will be bringing, and hopefully will invite and they'll accept our invitation. There are people who've been at this for long, and they've been sharing through their blogs, their podcasts, their digital content, which is free for teachers like you and me, so that we can learn and go by their experience. So they are basically teachers. So we have a super teacher today joining us, and without any delay, I'm going to bring him up, and then we will complete the introduction of the gentleman who is joining us today. So welcome Jake Miller as a teacher first, because I often follow his blogs and he's talking about the young ones, the very young ones that he's teaching. If I'm not wrong, he is the last that he was teaching that I kept up with was science. So if things have changed for you, don't know, but he is a science teacher. So welcome Jake Miller to GEG Delhi NCR. And he's just not a science teacher only. He's definitely an tech integration specialist. He's a trained Google certified trainer. He's also a voice which is always there in my ears when I'm pushing myself to go for a walk. I don't do that very often, but whenever I go, I always have a podcast on because that keeps me busy. And I love to hear Jake's, educational duct tape podcast, and now the new one as well. If I'm not mistaken, that's the second I think episode that had come in recently, and that is the EdTech News Brief podcast, which I really love. So if you have not followed Jake Miller so far, well, he's the person to go to. But I want to hand over the stage to Jake. Please share more about yourself, introduce yourself to our audience who may not be here live right now, but they will be watching, I'm sure, later, because it's a working day for most of us, even if it was a Saturday, and they may not right now, but they will catch up, and I want them to get to know you. So yes, Jake, we would love to hear from you, who you
Yeah.
are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Sangeeta, when you reached out, I was like, "That's what an amazing opportunity to get to speak to educators from India." It's a little weird. I'm trying to keep myself from saying good morning because it's morning here and it's Saturday evening for you. So that'll be my only good morning. I hope. Later I'm going to say I hope you have a great day when I'm all done. You're like, it's bedtime, but I am an educator in Ohio in the United States. I teach 8th grade science, so that's 13 and 14-year-old students. But as you mentioned, kind of my passion on the side is working with educational technology and doing EdTech integration. I spent some time in a technology integration role for my school district and then ended up moving back into the classroom, which has really helped frame, it's helped me keep in touch with the struggle that educators have gone through over these last two and a half, 3 years, because I've been going through it too, right? So it helps me frame that, but also know what kinds of supports they need with educational technology. And as you mentioned, I host 2 podcasts. One's on a hiatus right now. That's Educational Duct Tape. And my new one, as you mentioned, is the EdTech News Brief, just because I can't get enough of talking about educational technology. There might be something wrong with me. I don't know.
So definitely, I mean, your efforts of putting together these podcasts have helped so many of us. So this is just to let you know that even though you didn't know we were listening, far away in India, we were listening, and we are your audience there as well, part of your audience, even if it's a small one, which I hope will change now that people do get to know you here and will follow you. So definitely, there's so much more to learn from you, and we would love to hand over the stage to you. I'm going to bring up your slides and leave the stage to you, and we will be jumping in case our audience wants to know something specific. And we'll be there in case you need us. We'll be there in the backstage, right?
That
So
sounds
over to
great.
you, Jake. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Not good morning, just hello, everyone out there. Whether you're in India or elsewhere, this is YouTube, so it could be anybody, right? So thank you for joining us today. I am, as Sangeeta said in that introduction, Jake Miller. I'm an educator, as I mentioned, in Ohio, and I'm going to talk to you today about duct tape or educational technology and how the two things, duct tape and educational technology, go together. But first, a little bit about myself. Here is some of my information if you want to reach out with questions after today's session is over. You can see my email address, the address for my podcast and my website, and my social media handle there. I'd love to hear from you after or during the session with questions or maybe with shares of things that you've tried out in your classroom. I love hearing that kind of stuff. I am, as I mentioned earlier, an educator here in Ohio, teaching 8th grade science. And on the side, I do a lot of work with educational technology because I love helping educators integrate technology. I'm also a father of 3. They're all still sleeping right now because it's just after 8 a.m. here on a Saturday in Ohio. So fortunately, they're sleeping in a little bit, so it wasn't too crazy. I was able to get to the computer without any craziness. But I'll walk upstairs after this is over and have a lot of excitement going on in my house when I get upstairs. So we're going to dive in and talk about educational duct tape. But first, before we talk about what educational duct tape is, before I tell you about where that weird metaphor came from, I'd like to give you an opportunity to win some prizes. And right now, the odds are good because we don't have a whole lot of people watching, but I know we'll have some people watching late. So I will wait until, a little bit later today. Maybe I'll give it, 6 or 7 hours after the session ends to pick our winners because I know some people will watch a little bit later. So if you're watching this late or on time, head over to jakemiller.net/EDT, as you can see on the slide there. That will get you to this presentation that we're going through, but it'll also get you to a Google form to enter to win one of 2 prizes that I'll give out for this session. The first prize I'll give out, actually the second prize I'll give out, will be a sticker, and you'll pick which sticker I send you in the mail. It could be either this one, which says it's pronounced GIF with a hard G like gift, or you might select this one, which I believe to be the wrong one, which says it's pronounced Jif with a soft G, like the Jif peanut butter brand. You could pick which one you get. I'll send it to you in the mail, and hopefully it'll get there to you quickly, so you could support your pronunciation of the file format GIF on your computer or wherever with pride. The first winner will win a copy of my book, Educational Duct Tape, an EdTech Integration Mindset. It is available on Amazon and everything like that, but I will send a free copy signed to whoever wins that one. So head over to jakemiller.net/EDT to get to these slides and to enter to win one of those 2 items. Okay, so now let's talk actual educational duct tape right now. So where did this whole educational duct tape thing come from? Well, I think the best place to start is what gave me the opportunity to be able to speak to educators in India about educational technology. And that's what I call an edu-GIF. Now, most of us know what a GIF is. A GIF, or a GIF, if you happen to pronounce it that way, is a file type that we can send in text messages or on Twitter or in our email, things like that. They're really kind of like an image format, but they move like a video. They don't have audio. They're relatively small file sizes. They're short and they loop at the end, right? And we use them a lot to show our reactions to things or how excited we are about things or anything like that. Kind of a quick, fun way to sum something up. Like this is one of my favorite ones. So you could see short looping, kind of like a video, but technically it's an audio, or it's an image file, no audio to it. And we all love sending them. Well, years ago, I started making what I call edu-GIFs. So they're the same file type, but they're meant to be educational. So here's one that was particularly famous for me. This is actually an old version of it. I need to update my slides with a newer version of it. I'll let it play and let you see what it does first before I talk about it. So as you can see, what this GIF is showing is that you could take words in just about any language and translate them to just about any other language using Google Sheets. I discovered this years ago when I was a technology integration specialist at my school, and we had a student move in from a country in Europe who didn't speak English fluently. And so while we did have an English as a second language tutor or English learning language tutor, helping her assimilate, she still needed some help to understand what the different vocabulary words in her classes were. So we set up a spreadsheet like this to do those translations for her. And we didn't know how to do it before we kind of did some research about what we could potentially do to help her. And when we discovered it, I said more educators need to know about this because there's a lot of students in these kinds of situations. And it'd be great if we could just say, here's kind of all of the words you might hear us using and what they mean in your language. So I wanted to share that information. And so I created this GIF and shared it on Twitter and on my website for different people to learn about how to do that and use it to support their students. Well, this particular GIF went viral. Not only were thousands of educators liking it and sharing it and retweeting it, but it was getting tens and thousands of shares on Reddit and places like that. All of these different places that I hadn't even imagined, and it went crazy. Now, I'm not telling you this so that you could be like, "Wow, Jake is so cool. Look at how he went viral with these GIFs that he made." What I'm telling you about this for is because when I started making these edu gifts, the mindset that got me to making them is what I want you to hear as educators. So as educators, and I know having been in the science classroom these last 2 years, what we do with educational technology, sometimes, especially when it's been so difficult, um, we don't have time to do all of the things, right? We know there's lots of things that could be amazing for our classrooms, but we don't have time to do all of those things or the energy to do all of those things. So our integration of educational technology has to be mindful. And I have a mindset that I want to share with you about how we can do that. And that's the same mindset that brought me to making these edu gifts. Just because I can make GIFs and share it out there for people to see doesn't mean I necessarily should unless it matches the mindset of what I'm trying to do. So to help you understand where those edu GIFs come from, I'm gonna go a little bit further back. So we'll start off from my original classroom. This isn't actually a picture of my original classroom, but it looks similar to it. I started teaching about 19 and a half years ago. I was teaching 8th grade math, grade 8 math at that time. Loved that job. Thought I was going to teach in it for my whole 35 years until retirement, teaching that same classroom, that same topic to that same age group of students. But I found that I wanted to explore different things. So I kept changing. I went from teaching 8th grade math to 4th grade math to 8th grade science to 8th grade STEM. And as I was bouncing between all of these different topics, what I found was I was getting more and more excited about the integration of educational technology. First, I was excited about what it could do for my teaching. Then I was excited about what my students could create with it. Then I started sharing it with my teaching team and then across my school building and then across my school district. And this probably sounds like a lot of the people that are here watching right now. I know Sangeeta and Sanchita and Vibha are probably like, yeah, that's who I am. That's what I did, right? I started as a teacher and then I got excited about it. And then I started sharing about it with my small group of friends. And now here we are, leads and co-leads of GEG Delhi because of that excitement for it. And that's kind of the path that I was on, where I was really excited about this educational technology and I wanted to share it with more educators. I wanted more educators to hear about what it could do for their classroom because I knew the educators that I was talking to were nervous about the use of educational technology. They were overwhelmed about the process of educational technology. They were turning away from it because it seemed like too much work for them. And it can be too much work for them. But I wanted them to hear the ways that it could invigorate what they do. And so I had a goal. And so I needed to identify what different tools could support me in meeting that goal. So my goal was to share EdTech with more educators. And I thought about the tools that I had available to me. And I had Camtasia, which is a screen recording program available. I could put those screen recorded videos up on YouTube. I could catalog them on my website so people could find them. And I could share them on Twitter so that people could discover them. So that was my plan. So I would come down here late in the evening to this very basement. I had the desk facing the other direction. You can't see that window that's across from me right now. It used to be behind me. I would come down here late in the evening after my wife and I had gotten all 3 kids to bed and all of the lunches packed for the next day and the kitchen was clean and the garbage was taken out and things like that. I would come down here and I would record a video about a different educational technology tool. Maybe it would be how to use Google Forms or how to embed Google Drawings inside of a Google Doc, whatever it might be. I would record that video thinking this is going to help educators so much. I'd come down here, I'd have on my pajama pants because it's late in the evening. I'd have on my dress shirt from that day of work because all you could see is like shoulders up, right? And I'd have my beer setting just off screen. Don't judge me. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I'm recording that video. And I would record a video about whatever I was excited about to support educators. And then I would share it out there on Twitter and on my website and on YouTube. And I'd come back like a week later to see how many views it had gotten, to see how many educators had I impacted with this stuff, right? And I would look, and then as you could see down at the bottom of that screen, this particular video had 7 views. And I was what I was seeing, 7 views, 8 views, 9 views. Now that doesn't sound that bad for within a week to impact 7 or 8 or 9 educators who might impact hundreds of students with that kind of that spreading effect of it. But what you need to know is 2 or 3 of those views were me making sure the video was still working. And one of those videos was my mom, who's a retired teacher and doesn't care about educational technology anymore, but it's just checking on me. So I'm really only getting like 4 views at this time. And I'm like, man, I really thought I was doing something special here. The videos were good. I put some good time into it. The content was important and relevant and useful to educators. And yet I was only getting 4 views. Educators were not interested in watching these videos. And it's not because educators are not motivated. We know that. Look at you. It's Saturday evening in India right now. And here you are watching this video, or maybe you're watching it late and it's your weekend, but this is optional. Nobody's making you watch this video and you're watching it. So we're certainly not lazy, right? Yet educators were not at that time watching my videos. And I had to figure out, why is it my videos are well made, relevant topics, and for an engaged audience of educators, and yet nobody's watching my videos. And I realized that my problem was I had too many hurdles in place, right? The educators had to be following me to discover it. They had to trust me to make good content that was worth watching. They had to be in a time where they had time to watch a 10-minute long video. They had to maybe have earbuds that they could put in, or be in a place where they could even listen to audio. And there were too many hurdles getting them to listening to those videos. And so I had to think, what am I going to do to take this content, this goal that I have of sharing EdTech, to this audience that I want to support, educators? How am I going to eliminate these hurdles so they could see it? So I found my answer one day in a doctor's office waiting room. I was sitting, waiting to get called back by the doctor for my appointment. And while I was waiting for the appointment, I started looking at Facebook on my phone. So I'm thumbing my way through Facebook, looking at what my friends are up to, looking at cute pictures of their kids and things like that, just something to smile about while I wait to get called back. And then it happens. Tater tot casserole happens. Now, you might not know in India, but this is a dish in America that lots of moms and dads make because it's relatively easy, and the kids, I don't know, my kids tolerate it. Tater tot casserole is a casserole, and I watched this video of how to make it. Now, the crazy thing about me watching this video is that my wife already makes tater tot casserole, and it's delicious. So she doesn't need the recipe. And I don't do much of the cooking in our house. I do some of it, but when I do, the recipe is already provided by my wife, or she's in the other room hollering out directions to me and things like that. So I didn't need the recipe either. And this recipe puts frozen peas in the tater tot casserole. Why would you put peas in there? I don't know why you would put peas in there. Yet I watched this video. Why was I watching this video? And what I noticed was, when I thought about this, I noticed that this video auto played in Facebook. I scrolled down to it, it started playing. This video was slick and fast moving and well made. This video didn't require me to put in headphones, and this video only took about 30 seconds to watch. And I said, that's what my educational technology content needs. It needs to autoplay. It needs to move quickly. It needs to be slick, and it needs to be able to be played without audio. And I said, what my videos need, what my educational technology content needs, is to be a GIF. And that's when I started making EduGIFs. So I took those videos that I was making late in the evening, and I stopped recording my face and my voice. I just recorded my screen. And I stopped recording for 8 or 9 minutes and started recording for 40 seconds or 1 minute. And I would turn those files into GIFs, and I would share, or GIFs, and I would share them on Twitter and on my website and see if they impacted educators. And what I found was, instead of getting 7 views in the first week, I was getting 7 likes in the first day and 7 retweets in the first couple of hours. And instead of just 7 in a week, it was hundreds or thousands in the first week, because they auto played, they were right there, they were available to everybody, they were quick, they didn't take a lot of time, there weren't a lot of hurdles to get the educators into it. And so by doing that, I was meeting my goal of sharing that educational technology content with educators and helping them out. Now, nowadays, I do make more videos and a little bit less GIFs, because kind of the way that we view our learning about educational technology has changed. But it was a great way at that time to meet that particular goal I had. And so what I realized was, this technology was at its most useful. This technology of making this GIF with Camtasia was at its most useful when I use it as a tool to solve a problem or meet a goal. Educational technology, or technology, is at its most useful when we use it as a tool to solve a problem or meet a goal. So my problem, I had too high of hurdles. My goal was to reduce the size of those hurdles, and that technology helped me do that. Excuse me, sorry. That technology helped me meet that goal and reduce the size of those hurdles. Now, that wasn't educational technology yet in my mind. I hadn't started talking about edu duct tape. I hadn't started making this this educational duct tape metaphor at that point just yet. That came a little later. So we had this inflatable bounce house. Actually, we still have this inflatable bounce house. My kids are a little too big for it nowadays, though. And years ago, my wife showed me a picture of this bounce house on her cell phone as we were cleaning the kitchen and packing lunches in the evening. And she said, "I'd like to get this for the kids for Christmas." And I said, "What? Are you crazy? An 8-foot diameter bounce house? Where would we put that? Where would we fit that in our house? That thing is as big as our living room. Why would we why would you want that?" And she said, "Because it would make the kids happy." Okay, you're right. The kids would love it. It would make them happy. I probably didn't have a say in the matter anyhow. She was probably going to order it no matter what I said. But she ordered it, and it arrived on December 24th, delivered by the man in the big red suit. And I was the guy who had to inflate it. So I had to spend the time inflating it for my kids. But my kids loved it. And I was so happy to watch them play in it. And I had a love-hate relationship with this bounce house for years. I loved how happy it made my kids, but I hated inflating it. And I hated that when they were done playing with it, I was the guy who had to deflate it. I was the guy who had to roll around on top of it like a 6'4" rolling pin to push all of the air out of it so that I could fold it up and put it away. I was the guy getting it back out a month later for the kids to play on. But I loved that when I got it back out on a day when maybe it was raining or snowing outside and the kids were restless, I got it out and set it up. I loved how much fun they had playing in it. So I had this love-hate relationship with it. But one day I was inflating it for my kids, and I heard this sound, and I realized, yes. I turned into Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. I don't know if you know Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Yes, excellent. Because I realized there was a hole in the bounce house, and I could finally throw it away. And then I saw my kids giggling at the noise coming out of the bounce house and laughing at the sound. And I thought, oh, they're so cute. I have to fix it for them. So I knew I had to fix the bounce house. Now, unfortunately, we no longer had the patch kit that came with the bounce house for patching holes. So I had to think of something different to patch the bounce house with. Can you guess what I patched the bounce house with? I'm waiting for you to guess. I know there's a little bit of a delay, though. There we go. We got our first guest from high school history. Thank you for that. Duct tape. Yes, I used duct tape to patch the bounce house. It was the perfect tool for solving that problem I had. I had a problem. My bounce house for my kids had a hole in it, and I needed to patch that hole. I needed a tool that could solve that problem, and it was duct tape. Now, I wasn't planning on using duct tape that day. It was a tool that solved the problem for me. I also wasn't even planning on playing with the bounce house that day. It was a tool that gave my kids something fun to do that day. It met a goal that I had. Both the bounce house and the duct tape were just tools that helped me reach specific goals. Okay. And then I started to realize that's a little bit like what educational technology is. And when it really truly came together for me was at an educational technology conference. So hopefully in the near future, we'll all be back at in-person educational technology conferences when we can network and talk to each other and have fun together and talk about these things that we love, these educational technologies together. But at one of these events years ago, I noticed that there were three different types of people at these conferences. There was the first person who's like, ooh, Google Classroom, I'm going to use that tomorrow. Ooh, Flipgrid, I'm going to use that in my classroom tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. And we're like, oh, cool. What are you teaching tomorrow? And they're like, I don't know, but I'm going to use Flipgrid. And we love these people's excitement for using educational technology in the classroom and innovating in the classroom. But we're thinking, maybe think about what's the pedagogy? What are your curriculum standards? What are you trying to help your students learn? What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve with the technology? And then see if it's the right technology, right? They're just excited about the technology itself, which is great, but maybe they're not thinking about what they're trying to do. And then we see a second type of person who thinks, oh, there's so much technology. There's Google Classroom and there's Google Slides, and then there's Flipgrid and Pear Deck, and then there's Gimkit and Bluekit, and there's too many technologies, and they're overwhelmed by all of the technologies, right? And I know that feeling. I get overwhelmed by them too. That person is feeling that there's too many different tools to choose from. But then we see the third type of tool in the situation, or the person in the situation, and they walk through and they think, oh, Google Classroom, I could use that when I need to send an assignment to my students. Oh, Flipgrid, I could use that when I need to hear all of their voices. Oh, Pear Deck, I could use that when I need to present a lesson to them and hear from all of my students and do formative assessment for all of my students. Oh, Bluekit, I could do that when I need a fun thing to do in class to review content we've learned. And instead of learning how to use all of the tools or making plans to use all of the tools like Michael on the left does, or being overwhelmed by how many tools there are like Phyllis on the right does, this person is just thinking, these are the tools. They're just tools. This is what they could do. And this is when I might pull them back out of my toolbox. And they worry about learning how to use them when the time comes. Because there's YouTube, right? Just go look it up on YouTube and you'll find out how to use these different things, right? So they're just worried about identifying the tools and figuring out when they might use them. By the way, if you want to, those of you that are with us in the chat, tell us, who are you? Are you a Michael who just gets excited about the technology and doesn't even think about why they're using it? Or are you a Phyllis who's overwhelmed by the technology? Or are you a Jim in the middle who thinks about the technology as a tool and then worries about using it later when they have a time where they need that tool? So all of this stuff brought it together for me. It took that making GIFs using Camtasia and that tater tot casserole that helped me learn to do that. And it took that bounce house that I had to patch with duct tape. And it took these three different types of people at an educational technology conference. And all of that together helped me realize what educational duct tape was. Educational duct tape is the mindset that educational technology is at its most useful when it's not the goal of a lesson, but a tool used to solve a problem or meet a goal. So educational duct tape is that tool. It's that idea that we start with the goal that we have, the problem that we have, the standard that we have, right? And we identify the ways that technologies can be those tools. There was a hole in my bounce house. I used duct tape to patch it. My kids needed something to do. I inflated the bounce house. I was trying to share educational technology with teachers. I made videos. Nobody was watching those videos. I turned them into GIFs, right? Those things are all tools meant to solve a problem or meet a goal. By the way, I'm loving how many people are saying they're gyms. That's the mindset we want, right? Those of you that watch the show, The Office, know that Jim might not be as motivated as some of you guys are, though. But we love that mindset of thinking first about what are the tools, what could they do, and worrying about using them later when they fit what you're doing. And this is that mindset that I think helps us identify when to use them. Think about those technologies just as tools. And I think this is an important mindset now. I've been talking about this mindset for 5 or 6 years now. And in 2020, when we all started going online, as Sangeeta was calling it earlier, to teach our students remotely, we all adopted this mindset very, very quickly. We said, I need to be able to teach my students live, but we can't be in a room together. So they learned how to use Google Meet or Zoom or whatever tool they were using. I need to get information to all of my students. So they learned how to use Google Classroom proficiently. I need to hear from all of my students asynchronously at different times. So maybe they started learning how to use Flipgrid to hear from them, right? Or I need to teach direct instruction kind of lessons and get them out to my students so they could watch whenever they wanted to. So maybe they started learning how to use Screencastify. So educators very quickly said, this is my problem or this is my goal, and this is the tool that can help me do it. So they really started doing educational duct tape at that time. But now we've gotten to a point, I know because I'm in the classroom too, we've gotten to a point where we're all exhausted, we're worn out, maybe we're feeling burnt out, we're feeling like we can't put a lot more energy into this stuff right now. And that's an okay feeling to have. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way. But the way to choose this minimal amount of things to start working on adding into your classroom or continuing to add into your classroom is to think about, what are the problems I have? What are the goals I have? And where can educational technology be a tool to help me with that? Okay. I've got a tool in my garage that my father-in-law got me for a gift a couple of years ago. It's called a Dremel. And you could use a Dremel to maybe like cut the top off of a screw or to sand kind of the edges of things. I've never used it once. I don't need to put time into learning how to use it. You know why? Not because I don't need to learn how to use every tool. I just need to learn how to use it when I need it. And I haven't needed that tool yet. Someday I will. Someday I'll have a problem, something that needs fixed or repaired, and then I'll learn how to use that tool. I know it's there. I know what it does, and I'll learn how to use it when it's time. And so right now, when we're feeling overwhelmed, we could think I don't need to know how to use all of them. I just need to know how to use the ones that help me meet goals in my classroom or solve problems in my classroom in ways that support my learners. So years ago, I started a podcast to have just these exact conversations, and that's the Educational Duct Tape podcast. And so in it, myself and a guest that I have on talk about a different question that an educator might have. So it might be, how can I get formative assessment data for my students? Or how can I hear from all of my students? Or how can I make sure my students are paying attention during my lessons? Or how can I assess them on videos that we're watching in classes? And so I started the Educational Technology podcast or Educational Duct Tape podcast for me to ask those questions that a teacher might have and to give my answer and to hear my guest's answer. And we're selecting, these are the tools that might solve this real teacher problem or real teacher goal that you have. And I love that when we talk about these on the podcast, the guest and I often have different answers, and sometimes we have more than one answer, which shows there's not always just one right tool. A lot of times there's choices, and we could choose based on what works best for us in our classroom and our style of doing things. So the first time I did this in my own classroom, years ago when I was a math teacher, I taught 8th grade math and 8th grade algebra. And I was teaching from a smartboard in my class, and I loved my smartboard because I could make these lessons, and then I could save these lessons, and I could come back to them the very next year to teach them again. And I had my lessons like perfect at the end of this particular school year. And I was so excited that next year, all I'd have to do was tweak those lessons, add some stuff to those lessons, improve them based on my notes. But in general, they were ready to go, and it was going to be so much more efficient. And then my teacher, or my principal, excuse me, told us at the end of the school year, next year, classes are going to be 8 minutes shorter. They had added another period to the schedule for a different class. And so they were making all of the classes 8 minutes shorter. And I thought, oh no, all of my lessons are perfect for 51 minutes, not 43 minutes. What am I going to do? How am I going to make these lessons fit into the class period? And I had all kinds of irrational thoughts about it. Maybe I would stop talking to my students about anything other than math. No, that's not a good idea. Maybe I'll stop learning my students' names. I spend so much time learning them and then calling them by name. If I just skipped the names altogether, that would surely save a few minutes. No, that's not a good idea. Maybe I would assign homework to the students, but never actually check to see if they understood it. No, that's not a good idea. So I had lots of irrational ideas, but finally I thought about how I could use educational technology as a tool to help me with my problem. So what I realized was I taught from a smartboard. I had a program on the smartboard that recorded video. Back then it was Jing was the program I used, which I think Jing is still around, but not commonly used. And it was a screencast tool. So I knew I could record myself going over the homework for my students. And what I started doing was at the beginning of class, or actually during my planning period, I would record myself doing the homework and going over how to do it. And then the next day in school, when the kids came in, I'd greet them. We'd talk about maybe the sports event that was the night before or some school event the night before. We'd talk for a few minutes. And then I'd say, okay, take out your homework. And I would play a video of myself going over the homework while I took attendance, checked to see if all the students did the homework, checked in with students who didn't understand the homework, filled out paperwork for kids who were absent that day, checked in with kids who had been absent the previous day. So it was like I had cloned myself. I was doing two things at once. I was going over the homework, but I was also checking in with students and taking attendance and all these different things. So I was saving those 8 minutes. Here's an example of one of those videos. I'm not sure if you'll hear the audio. If you don't, it's okay. Number 3 was finding the surface volume and surface area of this triangular prism. I'll start off with surface area. I like to start surface area by drawing a net like the one I have shown here. So you can see that keeps going there. It's just me 12 years ago talking about math. You can see how excited I was about surface area there. But I would play this while I was going over stuff with my students and taking my attendance and things like that. Now, I'm not sure if nowadays I would still do that if I was in the mathematics classroom, because my beliefs have changed about how much homework should we give? Should everybody be on the same assignment at the same exact time? Should I really be spending that much time at the smartboard? Maybe I would be taking these videos and posting them online for kids to watch on their own instead of all together. Maybe I would be using a digital tool where the students' answers were being checked automatically, or maybe I was checking them that way. Maybe I would change the way I did things with the smartboard, and that's okay to change them. I'm not telling you this strategy that I used because it's the perfect way to teach math. I'm telling you this strategy that I used because I had a problem. My classes were shorter. I needed to cram more stuff into a small amount of time. And I used educational technology to solve the problem as a tool. I recorded those videos, but I might do it differently now. And that's a reminder of one of my favorite quotes. This comes from Dr. Maya Angelou. This is a reminder that we don't have to always do things the same way. She said, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. She didn't say, do the best you can until you know what's right and realize that you were wrong. And then when you realize you were wrong, do what's right. No, we're in a constant state of improvement. So we could change things as we go. We can improve things as we go. We don't have to be locked to the way we used to do things. And we don't have to be embarrassed to change the way we do things. We can keep getting better and better and better as we know better. Right? And it doesn't say until you know best, then do best. It's not a statement of get to perfection. It's just this incremental improvement, knowing a little better, doing a little better, right? I think the first step to knowing better and doing better is the knowing of the educational technology. So being aware of what's out there. So these are some of the educational technologies that I've used in the stories that I've told today or tell in my book and things like that. But the first step is knowing about these technologies, just like Jim and that metaphor earlier, right? Knowing what technologies are out there, knowing in general what they do, but maybe not concerning ourselves with learning all of them, right? The next step of knowing better is being aware of what's happening in our classrooms, right? What do we teach? What's our content? What's going on with our students? Observing how they're feeling, reflecting on how lessons are going, right? Thinking about what problems and goals do I have? What things do I need to improve? That's the other part of knowing better. The hard part, though, is the doing better. Once you know better, do better. That's hard because the hardest part is not the act of doing better. Hardest part of doing better is deciding what to do, right? Choosing and starting. Reminds me of my least favorite 6 words. My wife asked me these 6 words last night. Drives me crazy when I hear these 6 words. It's changed a little bit in the last 2 years. You'll understand in a moment. But those least favorite 6 words are, what restaurant should we go to? Nowadays, it's what restaurant should we order from? But when we hear those words, we all know that when our spouse or significant other says those words to us, we're like, oh no, the pressure of this decision. I'm going to say what I want, and they're going to say they don't really want that anyhow. And they're going to say, you could pick anything you want. I'll say what I want. And they're going to say, well, not that. I'm not really in the mood for that. This is such a stressful question to be asked. And it's so stressful because of the pressure, right? First of all, for me, at least in the community I live in, there are so many choices for where we could possibly go to dinner. And there's so much pressure to choose the right choice. What if my wife doesn't like it? What if my son doesn't like it? What if my daughter doesn't like it? What if my other son doesn't like it? What if the service is slow? What if the food's not that great? What if there's somebody mean at the restaurant? What if it costs too much? What if not everybody's happy and we're stressed out about it, right? And this reminds me of educational technology in our classroom. What technology should we choose to use in our classroom? And what if it doesn't go well? That pressure. We only get so many days with our students. What if a day doesn't go well? We feel so much pressure. First of all, it's okay if a day doesn't go well, but we feel this pressure and there's so many choices. Reminds me of a story a speaker and author named Barry Schwartz tells in his TED Talk called The Paradox of Choice. He says, all of this choice produces paralysis rather than liberation. With so many options to choose from, people find it very difficult to choose at all. With so many restaurants to choose from, I find it very difficult to choose at all. I'm not liberated by the choice. I'm paralyzed by it. With so many educational technologies to choose from, we're not liberated by the choice. We are paralyzed by the choice, right? He tells a story in his book and his TED Talk that comes from a different study by Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper, where they did a study of jam or jelly samples in a grocery store. And they set up on 2 different days. One day they had, I think it was 6 different jams that you could sample while you were there, and then choose if you wanted to buy one of them. And another day, they had 24 different jams that you could sample and then buy. And what they found was that more people stopped by the table when there were more choices, but 10 times as many people purchased a jam when there was only 6 choices. So when there was 6 jams to sample, they were 10 times more likely to buy one than when there were 24 jams to sample. There were so many jams, they couldn't even pick one to buy. When there were only a few, they were able to pick one to buy. We like having choices. We're overwhelmed by having too many choices. And goodness knows that happens with educational technology, right? There are so many tools and so many strategies. So when we see that many tools, that many choices, we're overwhelmed. We're paralyzed. When we see a small amount of tools, we're empowered by the choice, right? We're like, ooh, I get to choose what works best for me, but it's not overwhelming. So the way to fix that with educational technology is to narrow it down, right? When we think about buying those jams, we think about what fruits do we like? Do we like them with seed in them? Do we like high sugar or low sugar, right? We narrow it down by thinking about just what specific parameters do we want it to meet. When my wife asks where we want to go out to dinner, I think, do you want takeout or do you want to eat in the restaurant? Do you want a sit-down restaurant where we'll order from a waiter or waitress and wait for the food? Or do we want to, order at a counter and eat a little more quickly? Do you want a restaurant where we can have a drink? Do you want to go out for a dessert afterwards? Do you want to go shopping afterwards? Are your mom and dad coming with us? Please say no. Please say no. Please say no. I kid. My in-laws are wonderful, right? But I ask all of these questions until I could be able to say, oh, okay, I really just have to choose between this restaurant and this restaurant because those are the ones that meet all of the answers to all of the questions I just asked. Now I really do get to choose and be confident that they'll like it, and I get to pick the one that I really like. Now I feel empowered. And the way to do that with educational technology is to think about that educational duct tape mindset we talked about earlier. Thinking about educational technology as being most useful when it's not the goal of a lesson or or an activity, but a tool that we use to solve a problem or meet a goal. So if we think about what's the problem, what's the goal, what are the specific parameters, then that wipes out a whole lot of different technologies that we don't even have to think about. If our goal is formative assessment, we don't have to think about WeVideo or GarageBand or this tool for making podcasts or this tool for making different visuals, right? Because they're not, they could be used for formative assessment, but they're not naturally formative assessment tools. And we don't have to think about necessarily Google Docs or Google Forms or Google Sheets, maybe Google Forms, but we don't have to think about these other tools. We just have this set of 5 tools that are for formative assessment, maybe. And I'm making those numbers up, but we narrow it down until now we really do just get to choose which one is the one that fits my needs best. Which one am I excited about using, right? Another time I did this in my classroom years ago, I used to teach STEM, and I had this one school year teaching STEM where I, first of all, was super excited about the class I taught. The kids got to design video games and build bridges and design mini golf courses on a computer. And I thought this class was amazing. Like the kids would be so excited to use it or do this. But I had this one class, it was that class. We've all had that class, right? Where I was like, how did I end up with this group of 30 students together? Why are they so bad? What did I do to deserve this? Why can't I get this under control here, right? Why can't I handle this? And I realized, well, this is actually a snapshot from that class there. This is a true Facebook post that I made that year. And if you look in the comments of this post, you see a lot of my educator friends responding and saying, oh yeah, I've seen that class that you have that period. Or, oh, I covered your class the other day while you were gone at that conference. Or yeah, I have them third period. That's a tough group. But what I realized later when I started thinking about that class is that the kids who were giving me behavior problems were in one of 2 groups. There were my students who were slower workers and slower processors who needed more time to do the work, and they were frustrated by how fast I taught. So they were goofing off instead of focusing on it, right? Or they were my kids who moved faster than me and were fast processors, and they were bored while they waited for me to catch up. My Goldilocks students who were kind of right in the middle there, who were the perfect, who learned and worked at that perfect pace that I was teaching at, they weren't misbehaving. It was my students who wanted me to go faster and my students who wanted me to go slower. They were the ones goofing around. They were the ones misbehaving, right? And so I realized I was part of the problem here. So I had to put in place a new mindset, and that mindset is E plus R equals O. And I try to think about E plus R equals O every day. And I normally wear a bracelet that says it, but it's early morning here in Ohio. I haven't put my bracelet on yet. E plus R equals O stands for you think about the event that you're given, a tough group of students misbehaving. You think about the outcome that you want, right? All of those students behaving and learning and feeling good about what they're learning and growing as students. So you then think about what response can I choose that potentially gets me from that event to that outcome. And somebody asked in the chat, in the comments, how do we narrow it down? We narrow it down by thinking about this. What's my event? What outcome am I trying to get to? And then you can identify a response that gets you from the event to the outcome. So let's say you want to design a visual lesson for your class. So your event is that need, right? Whatever you're teaching, what your students are like, what technology you use, your outcome is creating this visual lesson. What response will get you there? Will Google Forms get you there? No, right? It's not a visual tool. Will Google Sheets get you there? No, it's not really a visual tool. So by thinking about what that response could be, you narrow down what possibilities are there. It eliminates a whole lot of choices. Just like my wife saying, well, I'm not in the mood for spaghetti tonight, right? So I eliminate all of the Italian restaurants. And my son says, I don't want pizza tonight. So I don't need to think about the pizza restaurants, right? I narrow down the choices and it becomes less overwhelming. So in that particular situation with that difficult group of students, I turned my class into a student-paced course. Everything was on a website, and my students just went through the website in order, right? They just did activity 1 and then activity 2 and then activity 3, and everybody moved at their own pace. It was all cataloged on this website. You could tell this website is old Google Sites. It looked a little bit ugly, but it worked. It worked for us. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a utopia. It's middle school, right? These are 13 and 14-year-old kids. Nothing's going to be perfect with them, but it did solve that problem of a lot of those behavior issues. And it freed me up to work with the kids who were still misbehaving because everybody else was working at their own pace. So I thought about my problem. I thought about my event. I thought about the outcome I wanted to get to, and I chose a response or a tool or a duct tape, right, that helped me get to there. Okay, I'm going to skip over a story here and jump to a different one here to wrap up with. You can learn about those other ones. If you have questions on them, you're welcome to reach out to me or talk to me about them later, or check them out in my book as well if you want to hear about those other stories. But I want to finish off with this one here. So as a part of that course, because it was all student paced, I had to record a lot of different videos. Okay. This particular video was about how to use an X-Acto knife, a crafting knife, to build bridges that we did in our STEM class. It was an engineering focused class, right? So I had to record that as a video. Now, in the video, I went over how to use the knife, how to plan their bridge, the design that they had to follow with their bridge and things like that. And I told them in the video, once you're done watching this video, make your plan, show me your plan, and then I'll give you your wood and your knife. And I had this one boy walk up to me one day and he said, Mr. Miller, I'm ready for the wood and my knife. And I said, oh, okay, great, Jesse, show me your plan that you made. And he said, plan? What plan? And I said, Jesse, in the video, I said, you have to make a plan and show it to me. He's like, I didn't hear that in the video. And I said, Jesse, did you watch the video? And he said, yeah, of course I watched the video. No, of course, Jesse did not watch the video. That's a problem, right? A lot of students won't watch the videos or the content that you post, right? So I said to Jesse, and you can see a picture of the video there, right? I was wearing glasses, right? So I said to Jesse, what did I look like in the video? And he said, you looked pretty much like you, Mr. Miller. And I said, no, I mean, like, what did I look like? And he said, and I swear I'm not making this up. You looked handsome. I said, well, Jesse, thank you very much for saying I looked handsome. But no, was there anything different about me in the video? And he said, no, there was nothing different about you. And I said, was I wearing glasses in the video? And he said, no, Mr. Miller, you don't wear glasses. And I said, well, Jesse, at the time of that video, I did wear glasses. Jesse, you clearly didn't watch the video. So Jesse and I both realized we had a problem, right? We had something we had to change there. Jesse had to go back and watch the video. I had to find a way to make sure my students were watching the video. So I had a problem. I made videos, but my students weren't watching them. And I had a tool, a response, right, to get me to that outcome. And what I did was I started using Edpuzzle, for those of you that have used Edpuzzle, and there are other similar tools, but that let me build questions into my video so that then afterwards I could see, did Jesse watch the video? Did Jesse understand the video, right? So it was great that I was making these videos, and it was great that my class was student paced and I was doing the best that I could, but now I knew better, right? Now I knew that my students weren't all watching the video. So I was doing the best I could until I knew better. And then once I knew better, I had to do better. I had to start building questions into them to check and see if the kids watched them. And I think that's the mindset I'd like to leave you with right now. I know we're all in the classroom feeling overwhelmed with what we do, right? I am too. But all we can ask of ourselves is to do the best we can until we know better. And then when we know better, we do better, right? And take our time doing that and be mindful of what we can handle. But all we can ask of ourselves is to do better when we find the ability to do better. So we don't have to wrap up right now. I'm happy to answer questions, but to wrap up the presentation part of this, I want to thank you. Thank you for the hard work that you all put in. I know how difficult these last few years are. I'm so proud of you as a fellow educator. I'm proud of the work that you put in. I'm proud of the fact that you watch videos like this to continue to get better and better. And don't forget, use the link in the chat there to sign up to try to win one of those giveaways. So thank you for what you do. But right now, I'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was amazing. Absolutely. Listening to so many great ideas that came from you. The your philosophy itself of how things started for you, the metaphor of duct tape definitely is amazing. It has always made so much sense, when you think about it and when you connected with the idea of our educational technology and any kind of technology that we are taking to the classroom should be used as. I just simply loved the quote. I have made a note of it and I'm going to find a way to put it right in front of me. That Maya Angelou quote, as that do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. I think I got that right. And that is something that really is very important for me. So thank you so much. I think Sanchita and Vibha would also agree that many of the things that Jake has said is something we all commonly believe in, the four of us, we
Absolutely.
believe in. I don't see any questions being coming in the chat, so we still would like the audience to, if you have any questions, anything that you would like to ask Jake right now, please do so. But there is a lot of appreciation coming for you, Jake, from the audience who has joined in. And I know that many people will come back and watch this video again and appreciate every word that you have shared with us. So thank you so very much to everyone here. Yes, Sanchita and Vibha, what's your reactions and takeaways from today's session?
I loved
Super,
the
super
storytelling that
inspiring.
went. Yeah,
Yeah.
the story. I think that was the such an engaging part to bring in laughter. I feel humor is so important in communication. So whether we're communicating with fellow educators or we're communicating with our students, and this is, I mean, I'm sure from personal experience as well. If you've got the kids to laugh at your joke, you've got them engaged.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great way to start off with your class. And also when you have students who have goofed up in class, and then we've laughed about it with my students. And I believe that makes them more receptive when they also see the educator as someone who's as prone to making mistakes as they are, and it's okay to make mistakes, and
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world if you made a mistake and you goofed up. um,
Hmm.
so I think that's an amazing learning as well. And of course, the question of mindset, I think you need to keep the goal in mind. There are thousands of amazing edtech tools out there, but which one of them is really going to solve the problem at hand? I think that so somebody was asking, how do you narrow down? So I think about
Hmm.
your goal. What is the outcome you want? And that definitely does help narrow down the overwhelming array of choices that we have.
Hmm.
So thank you, Jake, for refocusing back onto mindset and not going on this whole hamster wheel of, okay, this new thing has come up, have you heard about it? So somebody might have that self-satisfied grin and say, yeah, I've heard about it, and you're thinking, how do I not know about it? And I'm getting left behind, that the whole FOMO thing that we have. So I think today's session gives me an opportunity to step back. It is a weekend, so it's time for me to plan as well for my next week's lessons. So taking a step back, thinking what is the outcome I really want at the end of next week, and then look at what tools would be most fruitful to reach that outcome. So I think
I
for
love.
me, that's my personal takeaway from the session.
Yeah, I love that mindset that you've got there. That's perfect. That's right where you want to be, right? Because it's so tempting to be overwhelmed if you try to think about all of the things. But when you focus in on just what do you need to achieve, and then that kind of eliminates things you don't need to think about.
Absolutely, absolutely, and super duper inspiring. And apart from the inspirational things that you have said, as Sanchita ma'am pointed out, each and everything, I think I also picked up quite a few tips and tricks on how to be a better speaker and a better presenter. So you were amazing at that as well, apart from all the things that Sanchita ma'am has already mentioned. So yeah, amazing time we have all had, and I'm sure all our audience have also had. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you so much. Hopefully next time it'll actually be in India, right? I won't just be virtually in India. I'll get to visit. I've never been. So hopefully someday that'll happen.
Well,
Absolutely.
that
We'd
would
Amazing.
be
love to host you.
amazing.
We love to
Absolutely.
host
We
you.
would
Yeah.
love to have you here. We would love to have you here. And yes, then we will make sure that we have a face-to-face, educational duct tape
Yes.
or any other session with you, because we know that there's so much more to learn from you. You have so much to share, and definitely that would be something to look forward to. So God willing, let that happen, soon enough, and we'll be delighted to have you and also your family, because we've kind of had a glimpse of your boys, jumping in and out
Yes.
of and playing a role in how you put your sessions together.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we do definitely get a glimpse of what's happening, in your personal life as well. So I guess your children do influence. In fact, the students in our school classroom influence how we, teach, and how we sometimes look at things. Our perspectives changes because of them, and having kids at home definitely does that to
Oh,
anyone and
certainly.
everyone. So love to them as well, and we would definitely love to have you here as and when you plan, and any other time as well. Well, we would love to have you back on GEG Delhi NCR platform as well, if you are, able to spare time for us. But this has been absolute treat to hear you right here. I mean, I was getting goosebumps just thinking about. Well, I know I've heard this E plus R equals O in one of your keynote sessions long time back. But just having that being again discussed and explained so clearly on GG Delhi NCR platform, that made it, it came like so, became so real. So thank you so much for here. And yeah, as one of our participants said, this was just a trailer. Looking for more. So yes, we do definitely would love to have you again. So thank you so much. So our uh, audience is definitely appreciating. We also have Mel, who's always been, our constant listener and participant in this. I think she's in Colombia right now, and well, so we do have people joining in, and I hope those who will watch this session later will appreciate every word that has been shared. And also, you have time to fill in that form. So do that, because we would love to get one of your stickers or your book, whichever one, whoever wins that. Well, go for it, grab this opportunity, fill up that form. And I also noticed there was a feedback form there as well. So if you
Yes.
do want to give Jake some feedback, please do so. I think all the speakers definitely value the feedback that comes from their live audience. So definitely go ahead, look up that link and do that. I have shared that link in the chat as well. So hopefully you will do it. So thank you once again, Jake, for joining us. And we are absolutely thrilled. And one of our audience is saying, yes, I hope I'll be a winner. So yes, Badoni sir, hopefully you will be a winner, because you definitely do appreciate. I know Badoni is again one very enthusiastic ICT master. He's a ICT award winner as well, and he definitely does connect with the philosophy thoughts that you have shared as well. So yeah, let's hope that you are the lucky winner, Badoni there. So with that, let's wrap up today's session, and we will hope and pray that Jake comes to India and we have a live session for all of you right here. Right. So till
Thank you
then,
so much for having me. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today, too.
bye bye, everyone, and stay safe. Take care, everyone, and we will see you again very soon. Hopefully, our next session is going to be on Sunday. The next Sunday, that is 15th of May. And again, it's going to be a very special session on student agency and student ambassador. So, we are going to do the GEG APAC monthly session. Instead of Saturday, it will be on Sunday. So look out for all our announcements coming up on our social media, and we will bring something new, something interesting, something hopefully valuable to all of you. And it will be a share right from our classrooms to you. So hopefully that would be really bringing more value to all of you. Till then, stay safe, and we will see you again soon. Bye till then. Thank you, Jake, once again.